So in this week's Cheeky Markets. So in today's Bitcoin technical analysis, I actually want to say why Bitcoin is in a no trade zone. The reason is because there are a lot of conflicting signals, some saying that the price might actually go up and be a little bit more bullish, while others say that the price might actually go down and being a little bit more bearish. Regardless of this, we have two very interesting charts saying something about the Bitcoin price action. One is the Bitcoin futures and the other one is the Bitcoin dominance. Finally, during last week's crypto news, CNBC host comes with a forecast of $55,000 per Bitcoin after halving. 85% of the total Bitcoin supply has been mined, and mining giant BitMex lost 625 million. So if you're curious about it, just chill and keep watching. Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, and this is your host, the Cheeky Entrepreneur. So let's just start with this week's Bitcoin technical analysis, and overall I actually think that this is a no trade zone, and the reason is because there are very conflicting signals. There's so many bullish signals but also kind of bearish signals, and some bearish signals becoming bullish once again. So I actually think it's a no trade zone for new trades. If you're holding up shorts or holding up some longs, that might be worth waiting for confirmation. I think this is gonna happen next week. First of all, I would like to talk about the EMAs, and I've been pointing this out time and again over the past few weeks. First of all, we have the 20 EMA around here, and I mentioned how we actually broke to the downside in here, and we actually found some resistance from this line as well, which was a very good opportunity to actually short. Now I also mentioned the 50 EMA and how we actually broke not only once but twice, and then we found again resistance. But now what we're seeing is that the price not only went below these two lines, but it's actually coming back up. Now in itself, this could actually be very bullish, because there's of course the chance that we actually go down, retest these two lines, and even with this extra support we could find enough support to actually push the price way back up, probably just breaking this 50% retracement Fibonacci level and actually come back up. And if we actually do that, I don't think that this support is that this resistance is gonna hold for long, and we could potentially break to the upside. Now, having said that, it's not the first time that the price actually goes below or even above this 20 EMA and actually doesn't follow through. For instance, in this particular scenario, we see that the price actually broke down, it held below, it found actually some resistance, went back down, but it did not follow through, it actually went back up. So this could potentially happen here, whether the price in the following week establishes around here, but in the end it breaks back down. That could be a possibility. Now, the other thing that I would like to point out as well is this RSI box, because it looks like we're actually either finding some resistance or breaking to the upside, and this is kind of very tricky in this specific situation, because we also have another indicator pointing to the downside, which is the stochastics. And I've mentioned the stochastic for the past couple weeks, how it was oversold, and it was basically one of the strongest bullish indicators that we might have an upswing at any time. But in reality, even though it was oversold around this area, the price still went heavily down, creating very good opportunities for shorts. Now we see that the stochastics from here, where we found support, which I mentioned last week, we could find support here around 9k. It was a strong support level, so we actually found some support, we went back up, but now the stochastic has basically went to the upside and now is actually overbought. So taking into consideration all these indicators, it could be a possibility that we find some resistance around here and we actually go to the downside, or it's also another possibility that this was actually like a double bottom and we actually break to the upside. So that's why I'm calling this a no trade zone, because really we are around this level and the price might as well come up, test some resistance, or even come back down, test some support. So I would not recommend until we have some confirmation. But in any case, I just want to summarize the best trades of the last couple of weeks according to my analysis. Of course, first of all, it was this Fibonacci retracement level, the 61.8 around here, which was a very clear opportunity to short the price. That was the first one. The second one was really this double top scenario around here, which actually ended up playing very well. Lastly, it was also when I was talking about this 20 EMA, I actually pointed out that we could trade to the downside this retest of the line, which actually was a very good trade. And finally, last week I mentioned that there were two possibilities. First of all, you could have a trade to the downside if we were to break down toward these levels. Of course, you would have to have a correct risk management in here, but the other side, that I said, if we found support, we could actually go to the upside, and that's what happened around here. So it's gonna be interesting what happens this week. I'm pretty sure that at the end of this new week we're gonna see some confirmation to either side. Well, in any case, guys, let's jump into the 4-hourly chart, because this basically represents the same as I have already said about the price, that we are actually in this kind of a no trade zone. And to be honest, if you can see here, we're in the middle of two important boxes around here. So we have this important resistance box around the 11.5k, and we also have this now that became a support box that is around the 10k. Another thing that we actually saw the price doing is kind of doing this small parabolic uprise around here, and I pointed out in this line, and it seems that it's picking up momentum. So it wouldn't even surprise me if the price not only finds strong support around here and it actually goes up and retains this box. That's actually what I'm expecting. But we need to take into consideration that there's a strong resistance box around here, so that could potentially be a strong resistance. If the price tries to go up here, it might fail. Something that I mean, if I would have entered a trade around here around the 9.5k to the upside, that's definitely a point that I would be taking at least some profits to see if it actually comes back down, or if we actually break to the upside, as I mentioned previously in this analysis. But in any case, there's strong resistance ahead. There's what it looks like it could be strong support in here, because even we have broken to the upside with this EMA, so they could be a little bit more of a support right now. And if we actually take a look at the Ichimoku, it's actually developing a green cloud. So again, there's too many conflicting signals. I wouldn't take a trade right now. I would really wait for confirmation. If we go up around here and we find some resistance, I might take a short to the downside. If we go all the way down here and we find some support, then it might be worth trying to take a long. But at least right now, if we continue trading in this range, I would not even attempt to take a trade. Now I actually want to talk about the CME futures. Basically, this is the Bitcoin chart without taking into consideration the weekend trading, and it actually shows us something completely different and something very interesting, and that's why I want to talk about this. Again, if we take a look at the exponential moving average, we see the same thing, that we actually went and break to the downside here in the 20 EMA, and we actually find support here at the 50 EMA. We went up and we found some resistance again from this 20 EMA, coming back down and finding support once again from this 50 EMA, and now it looks like we are breaking back up to this level from the 20 EMA. And to be honest, that could have a great significance, because if we break to the upside again and we find support from this line, there's nothing saying that we cannot break out from this line and actually head back up, which is a total possibility. Now that's another thing that I would like to talk about, because during the past few weeks we have formed what it could be this trend line to the downside, and now I'm signaling this line because it could have a strong significance because it could be interpreted in many ways. We really need to wait for some confirmation. So first of all, this could potentially be behaving kind of like a descending triangle. Of course, it's not a perfect triangle because you would have expected the price to go all the way down here, but we see that we have found some support around this area, which is supposed to be just above this gap that we have been mentioning for the past couple weeks. So as I just said in previous videos, it could be a possibility that if we actually go all the way to this 8.4 where this gap actually happened, chances are that if we go there, we might actually go even lower. And here I think it's gonna be very important to see what happens in this following week, because we could find resistance from this line, and if we do and we head back down and we break the 50 EMA, we will definitely go ahead into this area. And I think if that happens, we could potentially go even lower. I mean, I have read some news that people say that it could go all the way to 7K. That would not surprise me, but we need to wait for confirmation, because on the other side, this could, I mean, it's very difficult to say, but it could be potentially kind of like a descending wedge around here as well, or kind of like a bear flag, like a bull flag. So right now what we really need is to wait for some confirmation, because if it's actually kind of like a descending wedge, if we actually break to the upside, we could potentially go all the way back up to 14K. And as I mentioned before, if we go all the way up there, I doubt that we're gonna find the same level of resistance from these levels, and we could probably go back up. But in any case, let's just go step by step, because the first thing is that we need to break this line, and so in the following week we are gonna know if that is actually happening. But there's also another possibility. If this is actually a descending wedge, we might as well come back down, fill this gap, and once we fill it, have enough momentum to actually move up. That could also be another possibility. So again, we need to wait for confirmation, and we need to wait where we actually find resistance, where we actually find support, and basically just go with the trend and look at what the market does and trade in that way. Well, in any case, guys, this would not be a complete analysis if I don't talk about altcoins, if I don't talk about this Bitcoin dominance chart, because it has been very, very interesting. And as well, we have seen both sides, both bullish and bearish signals. And I pointed out here before that we could break to the downside, which we did. Now here again, the 20 EMA, it's showing some strong confirmation, because we actually broke to the downside. Again, we held a kind of like a resistance in there, but we actually moved back up, so we could potentially say that this was a bounce from the 20 EMA. Now, having said this, I also pointed out that we were the stochastics were oversold, so we could potentially have this swing to the upside, and this is basically what happened around here. And what's very interesting is that now we are actually in this what should be now a resistance box. So it's very 50-50 kind of at this moment, because we could potentially find some resistance around here, head back down, actually break this 20 EMA, and proceed even with stochastics to actually go back down, maybe retest this 50 EMA, or even go all the way down and actually have some support from this huge support box. Well, in any case, guys, let's jump into the crypto news section of this week. So first of all, CNBC host goes full Bitcoin maximalist with 55K forecast after halving. Former Bitcoin bear Joe Kernan has predicted that the coin could hit 55,000 by May 2020, the date of Bitcoin's next halving. Bitcoin's planned halving in May 2020 will mean that mining rewards will be reduced by half, from 12.5 BTC to 6.25 BTC, an event that will drastically reduce the coin supply. Kernan predicted that the increased scarcity will catalyze greater demand, arguing that such classical market principles still apply to crypto assets, just as they do to scarce precious metals such as gold and silver. Earlier this summer, Joe Kernan became an unlikely hero and self-avowed Bitcoin bull when he argued that Facebook's planned Libra stablecoin doesn't excite me at all. He argued that unlike fiat-pegged assets, it is the blockchain networks used by major coins that add inherent value to cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And guys, I think I agree with Joe Kernan. I mean, it's all about supply and demand. Of course, right now we're still at a very early stage where we don't really have a real use case. I mean, as you have seen, we have gone more to this idea that Bitcoin is more of a reserve of value rather than a currency itself. But in any case, this is just basic finance. When you have supply and demand, if you of course have less supply in this case, then that demand inherently becomes greater, and then there's more chances for the price to go up. I think this will be a very strong catalyst, maybe at the end of this year or the beginning of next year, to actually initiate a huge and strong bull run. Bitcoin passes new milestone as network mines 85% of its total supply. Bitcoin now has 85% of its supply in circulation as of August 1st, leaving just 3.15 million new coins for the next 120 years. According to data from monitoring resource blockchain, Thursday saw Bitcoin miners extract the 17,850,000 unit as part of the transaction validation process. As a result, due to the number of coins awarded to miners per block decreasing over time, the remaining supply will only be unlocked in the year 2140. Bitcoin has a total fixed supply of 21 million units. And guys, just as the previous news regarding the Bitcoin mining, regarding the halving, this is a very important property of Bitcoin, the fact that it's not inflationary just like fiat, the fact that at a certain point there won't be any more supply, and this will just make it more valuable over time. I mean, in contrast with fiat, which becomes less valuable over time, Bitcoin just inherently will have more value as the supply decreases and as the demand starts picking up. Mining ASIC giant BitMain lost 625 million, expects profits in April. Chinese mining and mining application-specific integrated circuit ASIC manufacturer BitMain lost 625 million in the first 2 months of this year. Per the report, the firm sustained losses of 625 million by March, 345 during January, and 280 million during February. Those results were reportedly driven by the sales of outdated 16nm ASIC at low prices, and once the inventory is clear of those machines, new profits are expected from the sale of new 7nm mining rigs. As Cointelegraph reported in June, BitMain is revisiting plans for an initial public offering as the cryptocurrency market started reporting gains again. While the company was hoping to raise $3 billion from its planned Hong Kong IPO, the most recent report suggested that this fundraising target will be reduced to between $300 million and $500 million if it lists in the United States. And guys, just as the Bitcoin cycle, mining has also its own cycle. When the price goes down, of course, miners, they don't profit as much, and some of them, they actually run out of business because the costs are too high and the rewards are not that high. And this starts a cycle because when the price is actually very low and they are not really profiting, the only thing that they can actually do is start holding and absorb some of the losses. And this again, it starts a cycle where the price actually starts pick up, they actually start profiting a little bit more, and then more people start mining, and again that provides a little bit more liquidity in the market. Well, in any case guys, I hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you did, and only if you did, mind subscribing and also push that like button. Your support is really appreciated, so if you would like to help the channel, just take a look down at the description below. I recommend a lot of books in my Amazon link, so you can go on there and buy them. Some of them are about entrepreneurship, some of them are more about trading, some of them are about cryptocurrency, so it's worth taking a look if you're starting, if you want to get a little bit more knowledgeable on the topic. It is really appreciated if you use those links. But in any case guys, just as usual, I would like to remind you all, stay smart, stay bold, but most important of all, stay cheeky. Take care guys.